What's up, brother? Welcome back to today's lesson. In the last lesson, we learned about the benefits of semen retention. And we learned that there's not only no benefit for us to ejaculate our seed into our gym socks, but there's actually some positive results that we can gain by keeping it inside of our bodies. Now, I do want to add something here, and I don't want you to think I'm going back on my word, but hear me out, okay? NoFap is positive, okay? I truly believe that. But with that being said, I practiced NoFap for a long time, and I still more or less practice semen retention today, okay? Every couple of weeks or a couple months. But there's an important key piece of information that I want to talk about. NoFap in itself is not the one and done solution for ED, as I'm sure you already know. Like, how many guys do you see in the Facebook groups that you see them? They say, "Oh my gosh, I hit 700 days of NoFap semen retention." That's 2 years. That's great. But the thing is, and I'm not trying to judge, right? I don't want to judge, but if I feel like they're kind of just showing how miserable their life is and how they have nothing going on in their life, like choosing, like that's not the same thing as being celibate, okay? Like choosing not to have sex for 2 years, for most of these guys, doesn't come by choice, all right? So if you are in a relationship and you're not enjoying intimacy with your lover, I know it sounds crazy to actually stop altogether, but that's what you have to do to get back to where you want to be. All right? So NoFap is great, but it's just a tool that we can use to help us to get back to where we want to be sooner. All right? If overstimulation is caused by fapping, then NoFap gives your penis the rest needed so it can recharge and resensitize if it's given the correct instructions. So that's why the root focus is so important. NoFap alone doesn't do much if your wiring is all jacked up, and I think you'll understand that's true. Something else I want to touch on that's really important to understand is that every creature in the animal kingdom, including humans, are programmed to repopulate. All right, it's in our biological DNA code to ejaculate and spread our seed to fertilize women and all that stuff. Okay, but I just told you not to. And you're probably thinking, like, what is this guy smoking? So here it is. You're going to want to stop jerking off because you might have inherently noticed this before, but when you have an orgasm, it feels good for a minute or two. But then you feel like crap for a few hours or a few days afterwards. But then, out of the blue, you feel horny for no good reason. Okay? Now remember back to the Coolidge Effect with the rats. Those rats will continue to have sex after they ejaculate, because they end their refractory period because their dopamine gets spiked again. All right, now I want to show you another video slide here. All right, so what we have here is this is our baseline right here, okay? So what you have is your normal baseline, but then you get triggered by anything, whatever stimulus it is, whatever fantasy, and the factory turns on, okay? The factory's turning on, you're getting excited, you get to porn, and boom, dopamine spikes, right? You orgasm, it's amazing, you had your moment, and it just crashes, right? It breaks through this normal status, and it comes back here. All right, that's like one repetition. Now, what we're not showing you here is that this is what's typically referred to as a refractory period. All right, it's a period when you're below your baseline and you cannot perform within there. Okay, but it's not just refractory as far as your sexual performance goes. Like, think about this as like your emotional well-being, right? You get spiked, you're so freaking happy, everything's going great, you're jerking off, you're talking to the girl, your fantasy is going nuts. But then you do it, you blow your load, and you're falling, and now here we are. You're down here. So then you continue. Life's normal, right? Life's normal. Another spike happens, but this one, it doesn't get as high. You don't have the same amount of receptors available because you just burnt out a bunch of them. So it comes back down. But this time, your refractory period goes a little bit deeper and a little bit longer, right? And now that's where you are for this refractory period. It's longer, it's lower, and you just feel worse. You just jerked off twice. Okay. Now life's normal again, right? Things are happening. And then boom, you spiked again. And then it comes down and just things are not the way you like it. Actually, it's down here. It's the lower and deeper, right? Lower, deeper, longer. And it's at this phase right here. This is the magic point where you say, you know what? I'm done with this pornography stuff. I'm done wasting my life jerking off to porn and doing all these things. Like, this isn't what I want to do anymore. I had enough. And it's great because you really have had enough, right? You cannot get to these levels anymore. You're going to flatline now. And that's what happens is that you can't do anything. You have zero libido. You have zero sex drive. You don't want to jerk off to porn anymore because it's just drained you so much. And this hump is the rebound effect. Okay, it's like it's a downward trajectory of you, basically you're in this rut until you've charged up enough energy, right? A sexual energy just through living your life. It comes back. You might have already felt it now. It comes back. And what happens? You start to feel this. You're like, okay, I'm back. I'm on this line right here. And then the journey continues, right? This whole path repeats itself. You might have found this, every couple of weeks you go through these bouts, these repeating programs that like you just can't break free of. It's what happens right here that's the key. Okay, if we can help you get these replacement behaviors down, then every time you get here, every time you get here, every time you get here, your energy it's going to be this high all the time. But because you didn't use it, you can now move forward. And then this one, you don't use it, so you can move forward, and you can start to use that energy for more effective and productive things in your life, right? Like actually finding a mate. Like if you have a relationship right now, making it the best relationship of your life, turning your sex life and your intimacy into something that they write about in the novels, right? This is possible. But if we're continuing to jerk off at these moments and we're giving away our power to our gym socks, man, it's going to be a rough time. All right. You might find this true with your own life, and you might even maintain your semen retention for a month or longer. But when that day comes and you test or you cheat or whatever you want to call it, a slip, relapse, you might notice that it's usually not just a one and done mistake. Usually for me and the guys that I've coached, it's like they test and then they test again and then again the next day and again the next day until they run out of the desire to jerk off anymore. We just don't feel like it anymore, right? The beginning of this repeat offense is usually because we slip up after a month or longer. And we justify to ourselves that we'll have to wait another month or two before we really test again. So instead, we're not as strict and we jack off the next day or two because the pressure isn't as strong and we can just start again when we're ready. It's like we finally finish off those few days in a row of testing, and now we've decided, all right, I've had my fun. It's time to stop and get serious about this again. And then we'll start our semen retention again. But the reality is different. The reality is that your body is dynamic. So when you first get to that level where you're watching fantasy again for the first time in a few months, you were triggered by whatever, and you didn't have the skills to deal with them. So when you hit that mark, that point of no return, and you've got your pants around your ankles, okay, this is a huge buildup of chemicals. And not only a buildup, okay, but the mechanism, the machine that creates those chemicals has been turned on, okay, from a month-long hibernation to a full-on production workshop. And you think that you're just gonna have one orgasm and get on with your life, but you're not realizing that you just started the factory. You're paying all the employees. The electricity is on. And your body just didn't get all of this working so that you can just have one single orgasm. No, no, no. Your factory is now working, and it's going to continue to create those chemicals for the next 48 to 72 hours from that single experience. So even after your orgasm, you might have depleted some of your dopamine in your system, but the engine to the factory keeps producing. And while you go to sleep, it's able to replenish a large portion of it. And so you might have been great for 2 months, but now in 2 days, you get triggered by something again. And with this high level of dopamine in your body, it creates a new horny sensation. And for a lot of us, this horny feeling, it's a welcome sensation. It's different than depression. It's different than stress. It's different than loneliness. And the next thing you know, your pants are around your ankles. Again, damn it. Remember, there is no failure. It's just feedback. And this can happen more than once or twice, depending on how well you're prepared to combat it. Okay, but most guys think that after the third or the fourth time that they decide that they've had enough fun. I've jerked off 3 days in a row. I think I'm good now. It's time for me to get back on track. But the reality is that with each ejaculation, the chemicals are diminishing and your body has entered the rebound effect. Okay, you can think of it like you just jerked off 3 times in 3 days and your sexual energy is low, your libido is low, and you actually lost interest in jerking off to fantasy again for some time. During this time, your body goes into this flatline period until one day it's had enough time to recharge some of your sexual battery. And guess what? Something triggers you. Interesting how this happens within a month or two, huh? And then the cycle repeats, okay? Any of this sound familiar? Most guys believe that they're failing to stay strong, that they're relapsing, and that they're losers and failures, and they have the worst willpower. They're worthless. But bro, you're trying to take on your own chemicals head on. Honestly, that's a bad idea because that is always going to end one way. Okay? The chemicals will win every single time. So stop hating yourself for testing. All right, it's going to happen. Being negative about testing isn't going to help you to get anywhere. Okay, that's like looking outside your bedroom window and seeing that it's raining out there. Okay, and then you decide to go for a walk anyways in the pouring rain and then hating yourself for your clothes getting wet. You're so stupid. Why did you do this to yourself, you idiot? You knew it was raining. When all you had to do was put on a rain jacket. Okay, some of my favorite walks and runs were in the pouring rain, but I was always prepared for it. Okay, you can stop all the negative self-talk right in its place if you just set your environment up to win. So with the rebound effect, you have to be aware of it in order to be able to avoid it or beat it. The best way to avoid the rebound effect is to not test in the first place, okay? But we already know it's a very probable outcome as we begin this journey. So this is why it's crucial for you to really dial in your replacement behaviors. Even if you slip up once, you can get back to your semen retention. You can learn from your slip up and you can make sure that you follow through next time. Okay, as time goes on, you're journaling about your testing moments. You'll really start to identify patterns and you'll begin to catch yourself before it ever goes too far. But this all happens through awareness. Okay, this is going to serve you so much moving forward. I hope that understanding the Coolidge effect and the rebound effect helps you to understand why you make the choices that you do. And as long as the chemicals are kept under control, you'll have your sanity in check as you navigate this area of your life. Brother, this chemical stuff, man, this rebound, this Coolidge effect, this is heavy stuff, right? But we're at war here. And I want to arm you with the best counterintelligence available so you don't have to suffer any longer. All right, stick with me, man. And I think I'll prove this to you and you can prove it to yourself to be true if you haven't already. All right, man. Thanks for sticking with me. I'll see you in the next module. Much love.